I'm joined by investigative journalist Stefania Maurizi. She contributes to a major Italian daily, Il Fatto Quotidiano, and has previously written extensively for some of the best newspapers in Italy, such as Espresso and Repubblica. She's renowned the world over for her amazing work as a media partner with WikiLeaks, and has also worked previously with Glenn Greenwald on the NSA leaks from Edward Snowden. She's a good friend, and it's my pleasure to welcome her. Thanks for coming on, Stefania. It's really great to have you.
Oh, thanks to you, Richard. Thanks so much.
So, Stefania, I'd like to start out with the fact that just recently Julian Assange turned 50 years old while he's locked up inside Belmarsh prison in London. And you've known him a long time. You know, very tragically, he spent his entire 40s being persecuted by various governments for his journalism, hasn't he?
Well, first of all, I can remember that I was one of the journalists invited to his 40th birthday party, and I couldn't attend it. I couldn't be there because I was under pressure working on my book. And I mean, it was so sad. Now I realize how sad it is, because he has always been under confinement, under house arrest. His 40th birthday party was at Ellingham Hall. He was under house arrest. And then inside the embassy, 7 years, 6 years and 8 months without an hour outdoors. And then now in maximum security prison, the so-called British Guantanamo. And, you know, he has never known freedom again. You know, I have worked on this, I have worked on the WikiLeaks documents since 2009. And since 2010, I have never, ever met him again as a free man. Last time it was 28 September 2010, you know? It was so sad when I think about this. And, you know, it's so cruel the way he has been treated is completely unacceptable for me. That's why I'm so vocal. That's why I don't want to give up. As long as, I mean, until he will be free, I will not stop this work on the case. I mean, for me, like, I'm not just working, reporting on the case, but I'm investigating his, working on using freedom of information litigation in US, in UK, Sweden, and Australia, and it's very, very heavy. I have 7 lawyers. Can you imagine what it means to have 7 lawyers and to manage them, just to review the documents, just to review the you know, the court documents when you litigate? It's very intense. But I'm doing this completely for free. I'm just have some money to pay lawyers because I cannot pay for my work, but I'm doing this because I feel the duty to do it, because no one look for the truth. That's very scandalous about this case, because dozens of journalists basically received documents, work on the documents, and this was very convenient for their careers, and this was very important for editors and journalists and so on. But none of them work on the to try to understand, to try to, you know, you cannot win a case unless you have facts. You cannot win a case unless you know you have factual information, and to unearth this factual information is very, very, you know, it's very, very heavy. It's very, very difficult. They made my life so hard. You could ask my lawyers how hard it has been, and they know I'm alone. They know that I cannot afford, you know, thousands and thousands of legal fees. So they are making this process as difficult as possible so that I give up and say, okay, I cannot do it, but I don't want to give up until it will be free and until all the WikiLeaks journalists will be, completely safe and one stop. I think I have this duty. Because I have worked on all this documentation and it has been so important. I still keep using it. I still keep using cables. We have old politicians, so the cables are still relevant 11 years after, they are still there, and the cables still provide insight on the political affairs, on the world political affairs. The hacking team documents, the Vault 7 documents, they are still crucial documents. So I keep using these documents. So it is the bare minimum that I try to contribute to free him, to unearth the truth, and to have them, all of them, safe. Because it is not just about Julian Assange. It is about all of them. All of them are at risk. Of course, Julian has never known freedom again. He has been destroyed physically, mentally, but all of them are at risk. So I think I have this duty. In addition to the fact that it's extremely important journalistic work, because you learn the details, you learn how it works when you have the full force of the state against you, That's very interesting. What happens when you reveal crucial information about very powerful entities, the state power, you expose the state criminality at the highest level, and the state cannot kill you. They cannot kill you openly, of course, but they use other techniques. They use lawfare, they use media campaign to destroy you. So it's very, very interesting to acquire factual information on this kind of techniques and this kind of procedures.
We recently had a bombshell revelation in the Icelandic newspaper in Stundin that one of the key witnesses who's testifying against Julian for the U.S. prosecution, Sigurdur Thordarson, who's also known as Siggy the Hacker, he fabricated his testimony. I mean, this is an incredible development. So you would think that the entire case would collapse based on this alone, never mind all the other cases of foul play that we've seen. Why is it, do you think, that this has gone largely unreported and unconsidered by the courts and the judiciary?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it will be a serious problem for the U.S. authorities. I mean, they are relying on a person who is highly problematic, to say the least, Apparently, I mean, I have never met Siggy, though I have worked for 10 years, for over a decade on the WikiLeaks documentation and the case. I have never met Siggy. However, I have always heard that he was volunteering and with doing minor tasks. And it was highly problematic. And according to the many press reports, he had serious problems. He tried to steal money from WikiLeaks. He was an FBI informant, and even the Icelandic authorities were absolutely against collaborating with the FBI. This meant that they realized there was something really bad about this situation. I never heard, it's quite unique that police national authorities refuse to cooperate with the FBI. Usually, it is considered prestigious. It is kind of prestigious for police authorities to cooperate with the FBI. So if they refuse to cooperate, even when public, this means that probably they smelled something really bad. So they smelled something which was highly irregular. So I believe this case will be highly problematic for the US. So I expect some interesting development. Quite obviously, they have relied on a person who is very, very problematic, and it is also very, kind of disquieting how they try to infiltrate WikiLeaks using these informants, Sabu. From the very beginning, I remember I was working on the Stratford emails. From the very beginning, back in 2012, I remember a very important lawyer, Michael Ratner, for the U.S. Center of Constitutional Rights. And Michael Ratner immediately told me, well, they were to implicate Julian Assange in something very murky, but they didn't succeed. So these are very, very dark techniques by the FBI trying to entrap Julian Assange WikiLeaks so that they can, they can bypass the First Amendment, and they can try to show that they are hackers, they are involved in murky activities which are not protected by the First Amendment. And it's pretty clear what they are trying to do,
I mean, you brought up the fact that he embezzled, I think, $50,000 from WikiLeaks, and he's also just, working with the FBI, volunteering almost, and I'm just wondering, at the time, was there any suspicion on your part, on Julian's part, or anyone else in WikiLeaks that something was up or something suspicious was happening before all of these details emerged? Is there maybe something that we didn't hear about in the press, which they didn't report regarding this matter?
I have, as I said, I never met him, but I have always heard that he was a highly problematic guy. So probably they understood something was wrong with this guy, probably, but I'm not sure, this is our internal dynamics. I can tell you, but I can tell you that back in, I think in 2013, I was contacted by some strange guy claiming to have access to internal chats. And I was wondering whether he had anything to do with Siggy, or whether they are trying. You have to realize that even a reporter who definitely is not, very pro WikiLeaks or is not pro Julian Assange, like Kevin Poulsen by Wired. He was working for Wired, and I think in these days he's working for the Wall Street Journal. You have to realize that even a reporter who is highly skeptical and if not, hostile towards Julian Assange WikiLeaks, depicted Siggy as a person who was lying and lied to him, So it's everyone. I always heard that this is a controversial guy, and I'm sure it will be kind of highly problematic for the FBI to rely on such kind of guys,
Yeah, I mean, it is astonishing, right? Because just barely a week after this bombshell revelation, the UK granted the US limited permission to appeal Judge Bretzer's decision not to extradite. I mean, why do you think it is that the UK gave them limited permission? And it was just on 3 grounds, right? So 3 out of 5. Why is that?
As far as I can understand, the UK did grant permission to appeal to the US, but they did not grant the appeal on the basis of his health conditions. So it seems to me that they are trying to keep these health conditions as kind of as the unique factor on which they rely to deny extradition, which is highly problematic, because they should deny extradition on the basis of his work, not just on his health conditions. This is the real scandal about this case. Had we had a serious adversarial press, a serious watchdog, well, they should slap these people in on their face and say, look, revealing war crimes, revealing 15,000 civilian deaths in Iraq, revealing the extrajudicial assassinations with drones, revealing how the US put pressures on the German authorities and on the Italian authorities to grant impunity, to obtain impunity for the CIA agents involved in the extraordinary renditions. Publishing this evidence, well, this is journalism. This is journalism. So stop destroying a journalist and an organization which has done this kind of journalistic work. So had we had the serious adversarial journalism, fearless journalism, many outlets market themselves as fearless journalism, but there's there's no fearless journalism unless you have someone say, look, if this is not journalism, there is no journalism at all. This is journalism, So, I mean, had we had the press aggressively trying to get the US and the UK authorities acknowledge this, Julian would not have spent 10 years in these conditions, And the reason why he's in such a bad shape, is in this tragic situation, is because the media have been so timid, that they didn't protect him, Of course, they use all sorts of reason. He's problematic. He's a difficult person. They use all sorts of things in order not to acknowledge this, They don't want to acknowledge this. They want to cover this case as little as possible. If you look at the case, otherwise there would be not an Italian journalist looking for the documentation in the UK, in the US. I mean, you don't expect an Italian journalist doing this. I mean, there is a reason why. It's not about me. It's about the fact that it is really tragic that you have a journalist inside an embassy for 7 years and no one tried to get the documentation and say, well, let me look at this case and see what went wrong, You don't expect an Italian journalist going to London to litigate and to discover that the Crown Prosecution Service, which is the agency in charge now of this US extradition, you don't expect an Italian journalist unearthing how they basically put Julian Assange in this quagmire, and which has kept him arbitrarily detained and finally in prison. And you don't expect an Italian journalist going to London to discover that the Crown Prosecution Service destroyed the documentation. And the Crown Prosecution Service, which is the very same agency which is assisting now the US authorities to extradite him, the Crown Prosecution Service is the very same agency which not only destroyed the documents about the case, even if it was ongoing and highly controversial. It is also the agency which is using national security laws to deny me access to the documentation on 3 former and current WikiLeaks journalists, Sarah Harrison, Joseph Farrell, Kristinn Hrafnsson, who is the current editor. So they are using, so this correspondence of the Crown Prosecution Service correspondence is absolutely crucial to understand what went wrong and what is going on. And you don't expect an Italian journalist litigating for getting you expect The Guardian, you expect the BBC, you expect the UK media, I mean, the Sky, you expect Reuters, they are doing as little possible. Even in the US, there is, apart from the independent media, apart from the independent reporters, and apart from Glenn Greenwald, there is basically no coverage. I believe that the public opinion understand very little about this case because there is no coverage, you know?
You know, Stefania, speaking of the United States, they said allegedly that they won't put Julian under special administrative measures or SAMs, but they reserve the right to do so, and they're also supposedly offering him an opportunity to serve a sentence in Australia. I mean, why should he serve any sentence in the first place? What do you make of these so-called assurances from the US?
Absolutely, you cannot trust at all. It is a travesty of justice. This case is an absolute travesty of justice. I mean, he should be immediately free. And as I said, had we had serious adversarial journalism, there would be a fuss, there would be a public scandal about this case. And, you know, because it's completely unacceptable that you reveal war crimes, you reveal extrajudicial assassination, you reveal 15,000 civilians dead previously unaccounted for during the Iraq War, and your life is destroyed. You know, your life is destroyed, and none of us have been destroyed. I mean, I have published the very same documents. I have never ever experienced this. My editors were never, you know, put under house arrest or in prison or so on. And the New York Times reported on them. The Guardian reported on them. So their silence is also completely unacceptable. These diplomatic assurances. I mean, this case is a travesty and a travesty of justice, and this case is a massive scandal. And these diplomatic assurances should never ever be trusted, as Amnesty International immediately acknowledged. They are absolutely unreliable. They say, well, we will not put you in a maximum security prison in the most extreme U.S. prison, ADX Florence, but if you do something we don't like, we will reserve the right to do it. You know, how can you accept anything like that? You know. And he should never have go to the US. No chance he goes to the US and he will comes out, you know, he should never have go there. And I realized that the UK was assisting the US in 2007 when the Crown Prosecution, during my freedom of information litigation in the UK, the Crown Prosecution Service refused to release me any documentation saying, because if we do, it will provide some insight on the extradition procedures. And my lawyers and I argued, look, you are assisting the US to extradite a publisher who revealed war crimes as if he's a kind of drug dealers or a mafia killer. So you are assisting the US as he's a criminal, one of the worst criminals. So since 2017, I realized how they were assisting the US authorities. And now we see this, we see how they are completely, you know, they are assisting the US with this extradition, which is a tragedy. It will be devastating, not just for him. Of course, for him, he's a human being. I mean, it's a scandal, massive scandal, a massive injustice. It's not just a scandal, it is devastating. It will have a devastating domino effect on freedom of the press.
Truly, I mean, I wholeheartedly share your sentiment, Stefania. And just as a last question, I was wondering if you maybe heard about the recent developments regarding the Official Secrets Act in the UK. You know, the British government is now saying it wants to punish journalists who leak damaging information for up to 14 years. I don't know if, did you hear about that perhaps? Because, you know, to me, it looks like they're just kind of trying to make sure they copy the United States and keep up with, you know, the same brand of authoritarianism.
Don't underestimate what they are doing. They have a serious strategy, a very serious strategy. And the confirmation comes from my freedom of information litigation on Kristinn Hrafnsson, Joseph Farrell, and Sarah Harrison. They are using national security, and they are denying me this documentation about them. And this documentation is the correspondence between Scotland Yard, the so-called Metropolitan Police, Scotland Yard, and the US Department of Justice. And they claim we cannot reveal this documentation because it would compromise the national security and our ability to fight terrorism. Can you believe they are applying anti-terror laws to journalists? And they admitted, you know, the most serious thing is that Scotland Yard didn't deny they are journalists. They acknowledge they are journalists. That's the interesting thing. You would expect they would question it. They didn't. They said, these are 3 journalists. And then they used the national security laws against journalists. I mean, this is extremely serious. So they have a plan here. And the plan is to criminalize any kind of serious, aggressive, and fearless journalism exposing state criminality at the highest level. And they want to punish it as they publish spies, because these people are basically arguing these journalists are more damaging than spies, because spies just trade secrets, and the secrets they are not made public. But these journalists made everything public, so they are more damaging. This is complete nonsense. This is madness. This complete madness, because we never have exposed military secrets. Well, I mean, not all secrets are alike. You know, that's really important. When you, after working for more than a decade on this documentation, I came out understanding the deep difference between secrets. Not all secrets are alike. You know, as Professor Chomsky testified at the Julian Assange extradition hearing, these are not military secrets. These are not secrets about, nuclear power plants. We acknowledge that there are some secrets which are legitimate. You know, it's fully legitimate to protect the security of a nuclear power plant, you know? So we acknowledge there are secrets which are legitimate, but these are a very different kind of secrets. This is state criminality. This is how they put people in the CIA black sites and torture them. This is how they killed people with the drones, and they had no idea whatsoever who they were killing. This is how they put pressure on the US, on the Italian authorities to grant impunity to the CIA people involved in the extraordinary rendition of Abu Omar, or how they put pressure on the German authorities to basically to grant impunity to the CIA agents involved in the extraordinary rendition of Khaled al-Masri. So, I mean, this is state criminality. So we have the right to expose these secrets. The public opinion has the right to know this state criminality. And this is really goes to the heart of democracy. In a democracy, you must be able to do this. In authoritarian states, you cannot do this. They will kill you. They will put in prison forever. But in a democracy, you must be able to expose state criminality at the highest level. So this is what distinguishes a democracy from an authoritarian state. And they want to destroy this possibility. They want to put us under very, very, harsh intimidation, legal intimidation, and all of us, they started with Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. You have to realize that they have published all these materials under the continuous intimidation for 10 years that they would be, Richard, I have been a journalist for the last 20 years now, 19 years and 8 months, I never heard of a single media organization put under continuous investigation for over a decade. I never heard. And WikiLeaks is the first media organization which I heard was put under. And why they did so? Because they want to put people under continuous intimidation, so that they have this terror. If you publish, maybe I will be put in prison. Maybe I will be, I will be charged with Espionage Act, which is, something which terrifies you. So they have a plan, and you know why they have this plan? Because they realize that the secrets they have never been so powerful, because they have the power to spy on everyone. They have the power to, they have this, after 20 years after the 9/11, they have the power to put you in indefinite detention for forever without ever charging you. They can keep you, they can have you disappearing in the middle of the night and, put in detention, indefinite detention. They can spy everyone, 7 billion people, but they are so powerful, but at the same time, they are very fragile. Why they are very fragile? Because their secrets are in the cyber domain. So they feel threatened. They want that you realize that if their secrets are exposed, if you are a journalist and you get a copy of the next Cablegate or the next Afghan war logs or Iraq war logs, they will destroy you. So they want to change. They want to punish very badly any journalists who dare to publish their secrets. And they realize that their secrets are at risk. And they realize that they have thousands of people who have seen terrible things and can expose them, So they want to change, and I'm sure they will try to approve this law. They will try to, to have a kind of Espionage Act as in the US. So it will be a very, very important battle for us to fight. We have to fight to defend the possibility of publishing and revealing, exposing state criminality at the highest level,
Absolutely. And I have no doubt in everything you just said, because just the last months I was covering how the UK passed these authoritarian laws to give undercover agents the license to kill, to torture, to do anything. It's literally called a criminal conduct authorization. I mean, this is terrifying, and they're giving immunity to their troops from war crimes. So I mean, they've tried all these things, and this is just another installment of that. So I really echo your sentiment. We have to keep fighting against it, and this is also why I'm so grateful for all the work that you've done, all the work that Julian has done. Really, it's the highest example of journalism, put simply.
That's why I'm fighting. I'm fighting because I want that people understand the importance of their journalism, because there has been so such media campaign to represent it. I mean, I'm not defending whatever he had done or whatever he had said, or I'm defending the work he has done, he and the WikiLeaks journalists have done, because I think it's extremely important journalism, and it has been copied by many, and none of them are in prison. None of them are being put in prison, so it's it's crucial. We have to win this case, Richard. We have absolutely to win this case. We cannot afford that he remain in prison or he get extradited to the US and the WikiLeaks journalists get, charged. We cannot afford it. We absolutely have to win. And that's why, and I'm sure they want to win. The US want to win. So it's an epic battle, it's a crucial battle,
Yeah, we're not going to let them win. I'm confident that the truth will prevail in the end.
We will fight hard,
Yes, yes, and I know that you have fought harder than most can say they have. So, Stefania, I'm so grateful for your time. Just before I let you go, where could people find more of your work? Where can they follow you and read more from you?
I'm trying to publish as much as I can in English. So whenever I publish an important work, I try to publish it in English as well. And I'm just finished my book. So I hope to be able to publish my book in English. And so we will discuss the book maybe so that we can discuss the work. And of course, the social network is also a place where to look for some of my work and,
Thank you so much for all your time. It's really such a pleasure speaking with you always, Stefania. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. Thanks for excellent interview. Thank you.